In a stunning revelation that challenges American energy independence claims, recent data exposes the deep energy interdependence between the United States and Canada. This story gained prominence with Ontario's recent electrical supply dispute, quickly resolved after discussions of potential countermeasures. Electricity isn't something to play games with, stated a senior energy advisor, emphasizing the significance of cross-border power relations. The investigation reveals that despite claims about energy independence, the United States heavily relies on Canadian resources. Daily, millions of oil barrels and 8.5 billion cubic feet of natural gas cross the northern border, supporting American energy needs. Canadian heavy crude oil plays a crucial role in U.S. refineries. Industry experts note this specific grade is essential for refinery operations, with limited and costly alternatives. Analysis shows that 60% of U.S. oil consumption comes from imports, contradicting energy self-sufficiency claims. This dependency affects national security and economic stability. The situation is particularly critical regarding natural gas supplies in northern states like New York and Michigan. During winter, these regions depend heavily on Canadian natural gas. Energy analysts warn that supply disruptions could cause price spikes and shortages. The relationship between U.S. and Canadian energy markets is far more complex than most realize, explains Dr. Sarah Thompson, energy policy expert. The idea of complete energy independence is misleading. This situation reflects global energy dynamics, similar to how Russian conflicts impact European energy markets. However, the North American energy relationship represents a more stable interdependency. As winter approaches and energy demands rise, these findings raise important questions about energy security and independence in today's interconnected world. In a development that mirrors energy disruptions seen near Russia, America faces a potential energy crisis as trade tensions with Canada intensify. Our investigation reveals a situation that could affect millions of American households and businesses. What most Americans don't realize is that their daily lives depend on Canadian energy, says analyst Robert Matthews. We're not just talking about oil. Natural gas and electricity from Canada are keeping our lights on. The numbers tell a sobering story. Power plants across U.S. states rely heavily on Canadian natural gas for electricity generation. Despite claims of energy independence, America's relationship with its northern neighbor remains crucial for grid stability. Quebec and Ontario alone export billions of kilowatt-hours annually to U.S. markets. These exports serve as a backbone for power grids in numerous states, particularly during peak demand periods. Energy experts warn that any disruption could trigger widespread blackouts. Think of it as a domino effect, explains grid specialist Sarah Johnson. A reduction in Canadian electricity exports would create a cascade of problems, from industrial shutdowns to skyrocketing consumer prices. The situation worsens as trade tensions escalate. Recent tariff implementations have prompted retaliatory measures from Canada. Industry observers warn this could evolve into a trade war, with energy supplies becoming a strategic bargaining chip. Security experts draw parallels to the European energy crisis, noting how dependency on external energy creates vulnerabilities. We're watching a textbook example of how energy infrastructure becomes a critical security concern, notes analyst James Wilson. As winter approaches, the stakes rise. Without diplomatic resolution, Americans could face unprecedented energy challenges. The situation underscores the delicate balance of international trade and the complexity of energy security. Industry experts warn the automotive sector faces the most immediate impact. John Davidson, senior market analyst at Global Trade Research, explains, "We're looking at a perfect storm in the automotive industry. Tariffs, supply chain disruptions, and potential restrictions on Canadian nickel could reshape the entire sector." The situation mirrors other international trade disputes, similar to tensions with the former Soviet Republic this year. However, the U.S.-Canada relationship presents unique challenges due to deeply integrated economies. The electric vehicle market, heavily dependent on Canadian nickel, is particularly concerning. Without Canadian nickel, our EV production goals could be severely compromised, says Maria Rodriguez of the American Auto Manufacturing Alliance. We're talking about potential 12 to 24-month production delays. Effects extend beyond manufacturing. Energy markets show volatility, with natural gas futures up 15% since discussions of export limitations began. American consumers face impacts, with analysts projecting energy cost increases up to 23% by winter if unresolved. Labor unions express concern about job losses. High production costs and material shortages could force difficult decisions, warns union representative Mike Thompson. We're looking at possible thousands of layoffs if this trade dispute isn't resolved quickly. The Biden administration calls for immediate diplomatic engagement. However, Canadian officials maintain their position on protecting strategic resources, suggesting prolonged economic uncertainty ahead. Here's a 1875-character news story based on the input. In a dramatic shift in North American trade relations, Canada and the United States are locked in an intensifying economic struggle that mirrors the tensions seen between Russia and its former Soviet Republic neighbor. The latest developments center on critical resources and tariffs, with potentially far-reaching consequences for both nations. Our analysis reveals that Canada's strategic position as a leading nickel supplier has emerged as a crucial leverage point in this unfolding situation. Much like how the country that begins with a Y once held significant influence through its natural gas transit routes, Canada's control over essential materials could reshape the diplomatic landscape. The political stakes couldn't be higher. In Washington, the administration faces mounting pressure from both Republicans and Democrats, questioning the wisdom of imposing substantial tariffs on Canadian goods. Critics argue these measures could backfire, similar to how sanctions against the northern Black Sea region affected global supply chains. Meanwhile, in Ottawa, the government has successfully united various economic sectors against what they view as aggressive U.S. trade policies. This solidarity reminds observers of how the territory of instability consolidated its position during previous economic challenges. Industry experts warn that any disruption to nickel supplies could devastate U.S. automotive and technology sectors. We're watching a high-stakes game of economic chess, says trade analyst Michael Richardson. Canada's control over nickel gives them significant bargaining power. Much like energy resources have shaped other international conflicts, the situation remains fluid, with both nations walking a diplomatic tightrope. As one senior Canadian official noted, speaking on condition of anonymity, "We're not looking for escalation, but we will protect our interests." The coming weeks could determine whether this trade dispute becomes a full-blown economic conflict, or if cooler heads will prevail through diplomatic channels. Breaking news on escalating trade tensions between the United States and Canada, as manufacturers face unprecedented challenges in securing essential materials. Our investigation reveals a critical situation developing in the industrial sector, with implications affecting car prices and retirement savings. Industry experts warn that U.S. manufacturers are hitting a wall due to Canada's strategic control of crucial nickel supplies. Nickel is essential in smartphones, electric cars, and countless other products. Without it, American factories could see production lines grinding to a halt. This isn't just about manufacturing anymore, says economic analyst James Morrison. We're looking at a potential cascade effect that could impact everyday Americans through job losses and price increases. The situation mirrors recent global supply chain disruptions, similar to the northern Black Sea region, where resource control has become a powerful diplomatic tool. Canada appears to be taking notes from this playbook, leveraging its mineral wealth in ongoing trade negotiations. Our sources indicate manufacturers are exploring alternative solutions, including recycling efforts and material science research. However, these alternatives could take years to develop. Meanwhile, consumers feel the pinch. Sarah Thompson, a retired schoolteacher from Ohio, shared, "My pension doesn't stretch as far as it used to. These price increases are really hitting us seniors hard." The automotive industry, particularly vulnerable to these disruptions, faces difficult decisions. Industry insiders suggest production cuts could lead to job losses in key manufacturing states. Economic experts emphasize the need for strategic planning and diplomatic solutions. The stability of American manufacturing and consumer prices hangs in the balance as policymakers work to navigate these challenges. This is John Davidson, reporting for Channel News America. Breaking news on the escalating trade tensions between the United States and Canada, as our northern neighbor demonstrates unprecedented resolve in responding to American tariffs. In a bold move that's sending shockwaves through North American markets, Canada has unveiled a series of strategic countermeasures that experts say could significantly impact U.S. industries. This isn't just a knee-jerk reaction. we're looking at a carefully orchestrated economic response calculated to maximize pressure on key U.S. sectors. The situation took a dramatic turn when Ontario, Canada's most populous province, threatened to cut power supplies to several U.S. states. This move, unprecedented in recent North American relations, showcases Canada's willingness to leverage its vital resources in this growing trade dispute. "We're seeing Canada play hardball in a way we haven't witnessed before," says Dr. James Morrison, senior economic analyst at the Atlantic Trade Institute. The cancellation of major contracts and targeted tariffs signals a significant shift in Canadian trade strategy. What makes this situation concerning is the unified response from Canadian provinces. Unlike previous trade disputes, we're seeing remarkable coordination across provincial governments, suggesting a long-term commitment to these countermeasures. The implications for U.S. consumers could be substantial. Market analysts predict price increases across various sectors, from manufacturing to energy costs. The situation draws parallels to other international trade conflicts, reminiscent of tensions in the northern Black Sea region. As this situation develops, both nations face mounting pressure to find diplomatic solutions. The economic interdependence between the U.S. and Canada makes this trade war particularly risky for both sides. With winter approaching, the threat to power supplies adds urgency to these negotiations. For comprehensive coverage of this developing story, stay tuned. We'll continue to bring you expert analysis and updates as this situation unfolds. Back to you in the studio. Good evening. I'm bringing you critical developments in the escalating trade tensions between the United States and Canada, a situation that's becoming increasingly concerning for American industry and consumers alike. The heart of this conflict centers on what experts are calling a dangerous game of economic chicken. Canada is flexing its economic muscles in ways we haven't seen before, wielding their natural resources, particularly nickel, crucial for electric vehicle production, like a strategic weapon. This comes at a time when global supply chains are already under intense pressure. Similar to resource conflicts in the northern Black Sea region, this North American dispute could have far-reaching consequences for everyday Americans. Canadian officials are actively pursuing new partnerships with China and India, potentially leaving American manufacturers in a precarious position. Everything from our energy security to the price of your next car could be affected. The situation becomes more complex when we consider Canada's strategic position. Unlike Eastern Europe, Canada holds cards that can't be easily ignored, controlling crucial energy supplies and raw materials that our industries depend on. Sources within the Commerce Department suggest this rift could take years to heal. We're not just talking about temporary market disruptions. We're looking at a fundamental reshaping of North American trade relations. The Biden administration faces a delicate balancing act. Push too hard, and we risk pushing Canada further into the arms of competing powers. Don't push enough, and we could see American industrial capacity severely compromised. This situation mirrors other global trade disputes where economic interdependence becomes both a vulnerability and a potential pathway to resolution. The key difference here is the depth of integration between U.S. and Canadian markets. We're not just trading partners, we're economically intertwined in ways that make this dispute particularly dangerous. The United States and Canada find themselves at a critical crossroads, with experts warning of potential consequences if current trade disputes aren't resolved. Similar to situations in other regions where economic ties were severed, the North American partnership faces its own test of resilience. Our senior economic analyst, David Thompson, explains, "We're seeing a dangerous game of economic chicken. Neither side can afford to ignore their economic interconnections, yet both seem willing to test these boundaries. The numbers are clear. With over $2 billion in daily trade flow, the U.S.-Canada relationship represents the world's largest bilateral trading partnership. Recent tariff disputes and energy sector tensions have caused market uncertainty. For the average American, the impact could be significant. Canadian oil accounts for nearly 50% of U.S. crude imports. Any disruption could increase gas prices significantly. Canadian nickel, essential for electric vehicle batteries, could become a bargaining chip in this economic chess match. Financial experts stress that cooperation, not confrontation, is key to preventing an economic downturn. As seen in other global conflicts, economic warfare often leads to lose-lose scenarios. For investors watching this situation, analysts recommend maintaining diversified portfolios to weather potential trade turbulence. Remember, Geopolitical tensions create both risks and opportunities. If you're considering investing during these uncertain times, check out Interactive Brokers, the platform I personally use. You'll find the link below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more economic updates.